he is. Look at him. The one, the only. He's here. You can't have a Football Friday without that man. You're looking live at Baldi.
Well, hey, Cuz, listen, it's good to be with you. And I guess this will be the first Football Friday, as we kick off, NFL 2024. And I think everybody just gets lit up on Football Fridays. I don't care what kind of fan you are anymore. It's like we've been building to this point, and here we are, kind of the opening week of training camp. And, I'll be at the Hall of Fame game next Thursday. That's the first game. So Cleveland, Houston. In fact, they scrimmage in Cleveland the next day. So I'll be at that scrimmage the next day. It's either the next day or the day after. I forget. Maybe it's the day after. But they scrimmage in Cleveland right at the Browns facility. So I'll be there for that.
It's interesting because you normally, and I want to start with this because this is like our ode to training camp, but it's July 26th, and you're talking about the Hall of Fame game next week. Normally, and this was back in the day, training camp would have started 2 weeks ago.
Yeah, well, I'll never forget, honestly, my rookie year was 1982, and as a rookie, we came in 11 days before the veterans got there. I reported on July 13th. So really, from my rookie years in 1982, so now 42 years, I always thought of July 4th as the end of the summer for me. Now, I went to Italy this year. I did extend it a little bit, but for the most part, mentally, and I know other players that think this way, July 4th, summer's over. Whatever you wanted to do, vacations, travel, rest, you did before July 4th. Once that day hits, it mentally, you got to shut it down and start getting ready.
It's funny. Vic Fangio spoke yesterday, and he was talking about, hey, install, right? And at mini camps, he's like, listen, that was the install, man. Like, we got to hit the ground moving. He said before we had all those practices, so we were able to move slowly. But now it's like we got to just move, and the install's happening right away. You got to talk about what life was like in camp, right? What was life like and really this is probably, 5 to 7 years. It's not like you got to go way back. This is inside a decade where it's changed this dramatically.
Well, it's funny because just yesterday, I don't know if you saw the video, but in Kansas City, where we know what kind of camp Andy Reid likes to still run, like a receiver catches the ball from Mahomes and he gets lit up, and there's a brawl that happens in the middle of the field. Now it gets broken up pretty quickly. Kelsey's over there defending the receiver that got lit up. Andy's still hitting to the ground. But I'll never forget being in Lehigh and watching Trotter just level Westbrook. Now there's your starting middle linebacker. There's your Pro Bowl running back, and there's Trotter taking him down to the ground. And I said, and I remember like Matt Millen was out there because he lived up there in Bethlehem, and we're watching this thing. We're like, I wonder how many teams are practicing like this right now. And then last year, I was in Pittsburgh, and I see Tomlin before, and he's like, hey, whatever you need to do, Baldi, you go. Don't worry about anything. Just you go and stand where you want to. So anyways, he goes, by the way, I want your opinion because we're going – he had this one word or one phrase for the type of practice it was. It was all out. Every drill was live, hitting. TJ's out there taking on, whatever. And he's like, just let me know how many camps you see that are kind of old school. Let me know if I'm just, just an old war horse here in the way that I do things. But that's like gone. So back then, in my day, we practiced 3 hours every morning, and then we conditioned. Then we broke for lunch, took a little break. We came back in the afternoon. It was 3 hours in the afternoon, then we conditioned. And we never let up. Now, some teams let up. We went like that all the way until we broke camp.
You think about that. And that was 3 hours and 3 hours, and it was brutal heat. And it was it's funny. I remember covering the league and being in places like Platteville, Wisconsin, and Like they had a cheese
Cheesesteak.
league. Yeah. And I remember being, and you stayed in these dorms, and it was 1,000 degrees. Like guys had fans.
Yeah. Oh
It's
yeah.
it's wild, the like what the environment was like, not that long ago, which is interesting. I don't know if there's a right or a wrong or a good or a bad. It's just the change is so stark.
Well, when I talk to guys now, like I'm good friends with Andrew Whitworth, who just retired last
Yeah.
year. He played till he was 40 years old, and he played in the old school in Cincinnati, where they did 2-a-days every day. They had long practices. It was physical practice, and then he also played in the new day out there in Los Angeles with Sean McVay, where there's a lot of walkthroughs and this kind of one practice a day, and you couldn't be in pads 2 days in a row. All this stuff. And what he told me was, and I always thought this was fascinating. He goes, Baldi, those walkthroughs to me were like game day. He goes, I never wanted to lose a walkthrough. And, Aaron Donald was on the other side, and Aaron Donald approached walkthroughs like it was game day. And so he goes, I'd see guys come out there and the shoes weren't tied, and they just, they kind of were lackadaisical. And he goes, I just use that time to just hone in mentally on every single skill, whether it was a safety rotation I got to see before the snap, whether it was somebody coming off the corner late, or whether we had a combo block in this run game and I had to make sure my steps were perfect to cut off the backside. And so I emphasize to young guys now that because it used to be a walkthrough was a day off, honestly.
Right.
Walkthrough was we're out there working on our golf swings and we're dicking around because we could afford to do that because of all the work we put in. But I emphasize to young guys now, never take that approach. Take walkthroughs like they are game day and mentally make sure that you're doing everything from your pad level to your steps to what side you're hitting with your head, like win the walkthrough. And so I think while things are different, there's still things mentally you can do to sharpen yourself up to get ready for the season.
I love that. I love the nuance of movement, right? And the idea, and I'm a big believer in this. I believe that mentally you can work on that stuff, and those breaking it down in your mind, little thing. You said it. How you position your head, right? What steps, because it's so choreographed to make sure you execute properly. Everything really has to be. It's almost like a dance, and that everything has to be almost perfect.
Well, that's it. I mean, it does. And, with the rules have just are in place. So now the teams that are going to get off to a good start are the teams that are going to maximize the days that they're in pads. I remember days clearly being in Baltimore with Harbaugh and Ray Lewis coming up to me before practice. And he's like, if you don't say something about what this son of a bitch is doing to us, he's killing us. And so I said something to Harbaugh about it. And he's like, look, if Ray Lewis has a problem with how hard we're practicing, he's a veteran. It's on him to get out of that drill. He goes, but we've got young guys that we're going to rely on in December that don't know a single thing about this league or this team or how we do things. And we got to break them in. And we're going to need those guys in December and fighting for playoff spots. So I'm not changing what I'm doing. They'll have to just adjust. Now, that wasn't that long ago. And, Ray and Ed Reed, that is, like they were all bitching and complaining. Now, I don't know if anybody's bitching or complaining anymore, but if I was bitching and complaining to be, am I getting enough work in to get myself ready for week one, to get myself ready for that game in San Paulo with the Packers, who have completely rebuilt their defense with a new coordinator, four-man front. There's Rashawn Gary out there. There's Preston Smith. There's Kenny Clark. I mean, that's a good front, a really good front. And if you're physically not ready for it, you can have your head handed to you on that day.
All right, let's go through some of the plot lines. We'll start, obviously, with the Eagles. And obviously, the beginning of the camp was all about Jalen and Nick Sirianni and being on the same page. And what's Jalen's approach? Obviously, things need to change a little bit in this offense. And then yesterday was about Fangio. So where are you at right now with Hurts, the Eagles offense now under Kellen Moore? They're loaded. Obviously, you're replacing Kelsey, but there's a lot of moving parts. And where are you at Eagles offense?
Well, they finished the season. You always start with how you finished. They scored 9 points in Tampa in a playoff game, and it was ugly. It was a broken offense. So I think Kellen Moore is a big addition. And I think Doug Nussmeier, the quarterback coach, is a big addition. These guys have been around a long time as coaches and players. Um, it's a new offense. They've got short sets now that they haven't had since Chip Kelly was here. Things that can help Jalen in the passing game, getting the ball out of his hands quicker. So that's good. You'll be an incorporation of Jalen in the run game. There has to be. He's just that good at it. But I do think that Howie Roseman did everything you could possibly do to improve this offense as much as you can on paper in the course of 6 months. I mean, having Saquon to hand the ball off to, I mean, there's not a lot of 230-pound backs left in this league anymore. Now, he's not Nick Chubb when it comes to running guys over. He's got a different type of style, but he's still 230 pounds. I mean, he is a big, strong guy that can catch the ball. He can be a finesse guy. He can be a home run hitter. That's that. The offensive line, I know Kelsey's gone, but they did draft Cam Jurgens to be his replacement. Eventually, all pro players, Aaron Donald in Los Angeles, eventually great players move on in every organization. And so the good thing is the Eagles had a plan to replace Kelsey. And now Jurgens has basically played next to Landon Dickerson and, Tyler Steen and Lane. He's played with these guys for now his third year. There's got to be a communication situation there. It might not be Kelsey great, but it's going to be good. It's going to be good. It's not you're breaking a rookie, a guy that's never played. Like you're breaking in a guy that's played the position, knows the position, was built for the position. So whatever battle they have at right guard, they have. But honestly, right now, this offense should be very good because they've got really good players. You win with talent, and they got talented players at every position.
Yeah, just talking specifically about the quarterback, we watched him. We watched that tape last year, and we saw his mechanics, and there were a lot of issues in his mechanics. How's Moore's offense? Remember, defenses, as you know, nobody knows better than you how it's like cops and robbers. And 2 years ago, he was incredible, incandescent. That Eagles run game was unstoppable. That opened up things in the past. And then defenses adjusted, and they forced him to think quickly. They forced him to make quick decisions. And you saw the back half of the season, it didn't work out. What's Jalen got to do now, all right, and under Moore's offense to kind of fix that?
Well, I think first of all, he's got to accept the coaching. And I think he's the son of a coach, brother's a coach. Like he wants to be coached hard. Not many guys have been able to successfully do it. Last year he wasn't coached hard enough. There's too many things that happened on the sideline where he didn't take charge of the situation. So I think from a leadership standpoint, he's got to be better. I mean, let's face it, because honestly, and I don't want to make this as an excuse, but they hand you $55 million a year. Like things change, life changes. Yeah. Like it just does. Like all of a sudden, the pressure changes. Okay, you're there to deliver, regardless what the coaching is, what the skirmishes on the sideline are, what the egos are. Like you're now expected to be an elite player every day. So that does change things, and not everybody gets 50. I mean, you give Peyton Manning $55 million, and nothing changed. He was out there to earn it. Now, I know Jalen feels the same way, but things did change. So now that's behind him. Now the contract, nobody's probably going to talk about the contract. He's here to elevate everybody around him right now. It starts with accepting what Kellen is doing, being pretty steadfast with how he checks, what he checks to. This is you've got to be very precise. And so I think just watching him work with him a little bit in the offseason, I think that relationship is going to be good, and I think it should grow. And however Nick Sirianni handles everything, I think he's got Kellen here to call the offense. Nick's talking about walking in defensive meetings. He's the head coach. He's got to get this thing organized. He's got to get this, 53 guys going the same direction. He's got a new staff that he's got to, work with. So his hands are kind of full. This is Kellen Moore's offense. And so I think it starts with that relationship with him and Jalen.
All right, one more with the Eagles, and let's talk Fangio. Fangio spoke yesterday, And it was interesting in practice. He called out Jalen Carter, right? Like he made sure that because you so much talent, right, with Jalen Carter, and Vic is going to coach him hard. It was a little weird with Jalen Ramsey last year. I think that did not get off to the best start with Jalen Ramsey. He knows one way, right? Can Vic Fangio, can that work here? A lot of it's a young defense. Can you coach kids hard these days?
I think Vic, honestly, I've known Vic since he was the linebacker coach for the Dome Patrol for Jim Moore in New Orleans. Yeah. Played against the defenses. He's been around a long time. He's crusty. Like, he's as close to Jim Johnson as we've had here. Jim Schwartz is a good coordinator, did things a different way. This guy's a crusty Jim Johnson. Like, when he barks, you can hear it on the sideline. Yeah. You know, he's not – even yesterday in the press conference, like, he was – you know, his thing is I like analytics. I'm not going to let anybody know what I think about analytics. Like, he keeps everything in-house. I tried to get to know him over the years. I know his agent pretty good. He's not an easy guy to penetrate. He's got his way. He was saying, even yesterday, like he was saying about Bryce Huff. Bryce Huff's gone from being a part-time player and, you know, a pass rusher to now a full-time starter. And they're asking him, like, okay, what kind of things are you looking for? He goes, well, I'm looking for a guy that knows how to play the run. I don't know if he knows how to. You know, like, and you can't tell right now. But he's got to learn it. So he's looking at Jalen Carter, whether it's pad level, whether it's effort, whether it's how he's rushing. Who knows what made him, you know, call him out? Who knows? But his eyes are everywhere. And he's not going to let anybody slide. And he said, look, the linebacker situation is up for grabs. You know, there's competition at corner. Maybe Bradbury's a safety. Maybe he's a corner. Maybe he's both. We don't know. We got to try things out. It doesn't always work for a corner late in their careers to go to safety. Like, if you really carefully listen to Vic Fangio, you learn a lot, and he says a lot. And that was very similar, as you know, Cuz, to Jim Johnson. You wanted to find out what was going on. You didn't go to Andy. Yeah. Because Andy was going to stonewall you. He was going to do what Andy does. You went to Jim Johnson to find out. Yeah. You know, did the defense do it right? Did they make a mistake? You're like, who's playing well? He'd tell you.
Yeah. I'm excited for Fangio. Let's go around the division first. Cowboys, the whole talk, CeeDee Lamb not there. They're thin, man. Outside of, you know, when your all eyes are on Tolbert, that's going to be interesting to how that offense works. I mean, I assume they're going to get CD done, but, you know, the run game, you're relying on Zeke, and they're pretty thin at receiver, Baldi.
Well, it's Brandon Cooks, you know, who's long in the tooth. He's on the final year of his deal. I mean, he's still a good number two. He's still got speed. He can help. But, yeah, Jalen Tolbert's got to step up. I thought the tight ends were excellent. You know, I thought they drafted these tight ends well. They have played well. Ferguson, I think, is a good player. Schoonmaker is a good player. Like, they got Hendershot. Like, there's still going to be a good 3 tight end team. I don't know what they're doing at running back, guys. Like, we know that Zeke is, like, at the very end, he put a lot of mileage on that body of his early in his career, and he was outstanding. He was an excellent football player. Still is. You know, pass protector, as good as anybody in this business. Receiver, he's good. He just doesn't have the explosive movements that he once had. And that's, you know, it happens to everybody. But I really don't know what they're doing at running back. It won't surprise me to see them, you know, either make a trade, go to the waiver wire. Like, I don't expect this to be the roster of running backs when the season starts. And so, look, the whole offense went through CD last year. You look at the Eagles against CD, it was awful. It was a nightmare. They didn't have anybody that could cover him. And that's including Slay. I mean, he did whatever he wanted to do to the Eagles. And that guy, I got to tell you, man, I know he's a Cowboy, so, you know, I'm on your show here in Philly, but that guy is as tough as Texas shoe leather, man. You can't intimidate that guy. The harder you hit him, the quicker he gets up. He's just built different. Yeah. I know they said, well, he's up to 190. It doesn't make a difference what he weighs. That guy, he was like that at Oklahoma because he's a tough son of a gun, man. Yeah. And they need him. He brings a toughness. Like, how many teams do you look at the receiving guy and their leader with 135 catch, you go, he gives this team toughness. He just does. He reminds me of when I played with Drew Pearson. Drew was the same way.
Yeah, you're spot on, spot on. Niners have their own issue with contracts. Ayuk. Where's San Francisco? Because it's interesting when we look at the NFC. I like what the Rams look like this year, and I look at San Fran and I go, do they suffer from that Super Bowl hangover?
I don't think they do. Look, Trent Williams and Mike and Kyle Shanahan go back to, you know, Trent's opening early season. You know, in the 2011, I think he was drafted. I mean, look, the guy's a great player. He's 36 years old. He's the gold standard at that position. But he just saw Penei Sewell get paid. He just saw the left tackle in Minnesota get paid. And all of a sudden, he's not even close to being the highest paid offensive tackle in football. And so he's right at the end of his career. Like you watch him, he missed 3 games last year. They went 1-2 in those games, and the offense sputtered without him. Kyle knows he needs him. They'll get something done. It reminds me of last year going to Cowboys opening camp, and Zach Martin won there, and Jerry Jones was like iron-fisted. Zach's got a contract. He's got to be here. And then they acquiesced, and they gave him a deal. They'll get a deal done with Trent. You saw pictures yesterday of Brandon Ayuk standing next to John Lynch. Who knows what that conversation was like, but it's not acrimonious at all. Last year, Nick Bosa got signed on the Friday before their opener against Pittsburgh, and he came out and got 3 sacks in the opening game. I think all these deals are going to get done. Now, I think there is a price limit that they'll go with Ayuk, but he's got no leverage. Like somebody might trade for him now. I don't believe they're going to get top dollar for him as the season has already begun. I just don't believe that. He's an elite player. He's a great route runner. He's their best receiver. He's best in San Francisco. He could put up bigger numbers in a place that throws the ball more. Like Pittsburgh, he probably would really fit in well with Pittsburgh. But, you know, who knows what Russell Wilson's situation is going to be after this year. But they drafted his replacement, Ricky Pearsall out of Florida, who is he's a great prospect. I don't know if he's going to be a great player. Yeah. So I think they're going to get things resolved. Somehow they're one of those teams, unlike Dallas, that just finds the money for all their great players.
Let's go Lions. Are the Lions the class of the NFC? Hulk Hogan was at camp yesterday. In fact, he said that Dan Campbell's wrestling name would be Dirty Dan.
Well, I mean, he's one of those coaches that the team takes their personality from. Like he just is that strong of a personality, and he rides them hard. But this is a very talented team, very talented. Jahmyr Gibbs, like that kid.
I love Jahmyr Gibbs. Oh my God,
could lead the league in rushing. He could lead they've got David Montgomery there, and he sets the table. But Jahmyr Gibbs could lead the league in rushing. He's just that good. They are a very talented roster. They had San Francisco down 24-7 to third quarter in the NFC Championship game, and Dan Campbell made some questionable fourth down calls. They got no points out of it. San Francisco rolled in the second half, and they put up 24 points in the second half. And so they said, okay, defensively, let's go draft the best corner in the draft, they feel. Let's go sign some of these players. They are a very good football team. This is are they the class? San Francisco is going to be good. Green Bay is going to be good. Eagles are going to be good. Like there's some. Dallas should be good, provided that they get these deals done. It's going to be a very competitive NFC.
Is there a team in the NFC that you think to watch out for? I mean, I like kind of like the Rams as long as Stafford's healthy. I mean, their skill people are terrific. Is there another team that could rise?
Well, I think the Rams are going to be good regardless. I think Tampa is going to be good. I guess the team to look at is Atlanta with Raheem Morris, Kirk Cousins. Yeah. We know, what they have offensively, the skill that they have. The offensive line is solid. They've made some additions to defense. Like I feel like Atlanta could be a team. They've been 7-10 3 years in a row. Like, can they flip it and get to 10-7, win the division, and do damage to the playoffs? It's all possible right now.
So I know you do a lot with the Jets. Yesterday, a little flash that Aaron Rodgers 75 yards down the field to Garrett Wilson. If Rodgers just stays healthy, they could be a lot of fun, man.
Along with the offensive line, because it's falling apart every year under Joe Douglas. It's just, I do a lot of work with that team. Like, it's just unbelievable the amount of offensive linemen that have gone down. Yeah. Oliver Tucker. Just you go through the guys. They just got Mekhi Becton. They all got hurt. They couldn't keep a line together. If they can keep this line together, they have a lot more depth this year than they've ever had. If they keep the line together and Aaron Rodgers stays healthy, the talent on the defense, they have never played with the lead in the fourth quarter. But if they turn these, if they turn these cats loose on defense and the way that they can cover on the back end, like they're gonna take the ball away. They're gonna cause a lot of problems. They got to get to that point in the fourth quarter, and that's what Aaron's job is put points on the board and let this defense play it out. They could be very, very good. They got the curse working against them since Namath left. It's been bad. Parcells has been through their, they come off the AFC Championship game the next year. Vinny tears his Achilles, season's over, Bill's gone. Like, it's just been cursed for 50-something years. So can they get over the curse? Can Aaron Rodgers, stay healthy? Can the line stay healthy? If those things take place, they could be very good.
Who excites you the most in the AFC? Like, who are you enamored by? Which team?
Well, I think you have to look at Cincinnati with Joe Burrow, what they're capable of doing. I think if Russell Wilson gets back, if he plays as well as he played last year or better, behind a much better offensive line. Pittsburgh, they were 5-1 in their division last year, and made the playoffs with horrible quarterback play. Think about this, guys. In 17 games, their three quarterbacks threw a grand total of 13 touchdown passes, and they made the playoffs. And Cam Hayward got hurt in the opening game of the season and missed half the season. Like, if this team stays reasonably healthy, and Russell Wilson threw 26 touchdown passes last year. If he throws just 26 touchdown passes this year, this team, I don't know, this AFC North, I don't know how you pick a team to come out of it. They're all good. Yeah, they all have great strengths. So, that's you have to watch that. But I'd say if a team that's in the weeds right now in the shadows, you have to watch what Indianapolis can do. They won 9 games last year.
That's a great choice.
Quarterback. Yeah. This Anthony Richardson is going to be fun to watch. He's just, I don't know if he's Lamar good. Maybe he might be better than Lamar. He's bigger, stronger, and as fast as Lamar. But I think he could be well coached. They got a lot of talent. So I'd say a team to look at, as a dark horse is what Indianapolis might be able to do.
I love it. All right, so what's your training camp? You begin Baldi's World Tour. Yeah. So what do you got? What are your stops?
I'm going to be at the Jets tomorrow. We got a big national show from the Jets tomorrow. I'll be in Cincinnati on Sunday and Monday. I'll be in Tampa on Tuesday. I'll be in Jacksonville on Wednesday. I'll be at the Hall of Fame game on Thursday. I'll be at the Giants on Friday. I'll be at Buffalo on Saturday. I'll be at the Eagles on Sunday. And I'll be back in Cleveland for a scrimmage with Cleveland and Houston on Monday, and back with the Eagles on Tuesday.
Wow.
Yeah.
Baldi.
Yeah. That's before I get to the West Coast. I hope to get to some West Coast scrimmages. Hope to see San Francisco, the Rams. Raiders are practicing out in L.A. now. So I hope to get to the West Coast after August 10th right now.
That's fabulous. I cannot wait to talk to you during all your stops. This is going to be great. Baldi, you're the greatest, brother.
Thanks, Gus. Thanks for having me, man. And I'll be in touch with you throughout this whole process. And I'll give you whatever insights I see out there. I hope to glean a lot and give you a lot of insight, from the trips around the league.
I love it. Love it. There he is, buddy. The one, the only, Baldi.
We all silly like the mayor.